USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veterans' stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another, and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
My full name is Justin Scott Straughan. When I was in the United States Air Force, it was Senior Airman Straughan, and I was in from 2009 to 2013. My whole reason, I guess, for going into the military was because tragedy after tragedy struck my family. First house my parents buy, they're now new homeowners, whatever. A couple years later, my stepmother gets diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. That summer, I'm starting high school, Hurricane Francis comes through. We literally had our house falling on top of us. We had to stay in the house until the storm passed, and so we were actually like changing out giant Tupperware bucket totes of water. My dad's a carpenter. We don't really have a way to rebuild our house except for him doing it himself. He takes 9 months off of work and does all the reconstruction himself. We don't have any income during that time. So she's going through cancer treatment. My dad's rebuilding the house by himself, and no income means there were days they didn't eat so that I could. And so I figured, well, my acquaintance Corey went into the military, GI Bill. All right, I guess I gotta bite the bullet because my dad wouldn't let me swing a hammer like he did for a living. So it came time, I took the ASVAB, got a 92 or something fairly high, but they wanted me to go in the Army first. I went to see an Army recruiter. They wanted to send me on like some weird minimum number of tours to Iraq, and I was like, pass. Air Force, what do you give me? Because the Air Force recruiting station was like right next door, and the guy was like, nothing. This is the Air Force. I was like, sign me up. I was like, there can't be any strings attached. And there were strings attached. I said to myself, I have this small problem with authority, so I'm not gonna let them break me down to build me back. I'm gonna stay my own person. When I went to training in Keesler Air Force Base for their radar school. I found out that's where George Carlin went as well. So I was very happy about that. But Keesler was great. It was 98 degrees and 100% humidity all the time, all year round, so that sucked. But the radar school, I met some really good friends. I'm still good friends with one of the guys I went to school with, my first roommate, Mike. He's a great buddy of mine. And these things go by so fast in tech school, So I get to my first duty station. It's a combat unit, 53rd Combat Communications Squadron. And I learned that the job of the 53rd Combat Comm and the 5th Combat Comm in general is to kill people and break their shit. So you asked me if I was excited, if I liked it, if I didn't like it. To be completely honest with you, I kind of wondered, what's the point in living again? Like, why am I here if I'm just gonna get shipped off to kill people? One of the first things they put you through is combat training. We have our fellow airmen who put on what they like to call man dresses and engage in every South Park Middle Eastern stereotype the entire time they do it as you go through and murder them. And wow, that's not what I signed up for. So I thought to myself, like, great, I'm not a religious person, but I'm definitely reserving a spot in hell for myself doing this. Unfortunately, that got overheard when I made that joke to one of my friends, which got me sent by a commander up to be evaluated by mental health. I filled out their questionnaire, noted all their typos, red pen circled everything that I didn't see that was, they asked me the same question twice, I annotated it, and they told me, no, Mr. Airman Straughan, you're sane, you're not a risk for suicide, you're not a mental health risk, but you are an obstreperous prick, is what the guy told me. And we became friends after that. There's a trend in my life of becoming friends with people by being an obstreperous and insouciant jerk. I kept complaining about knee pain and, oh, this hurts, that hurts, why can't I do these things? And I kept getting told, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat, quit being fat, depressed, and just run more, just exercise more, just get in better shape. And I was taking a run, and my kneecap wanted to dislocate on me. It changed real estate locations the other side of my knee. They realized very quickly after they gave me an MRI and a CAT scan, no, he wasn't just complaining. I don't have cartilage in my knees, apparently, according to those doctors. That coded me non-service eligible. And so they did the basketball maneuver. They let me run out the clock on my contract. They just had me run the time clock out, and I worked with the honor guard for the next year of my contract, for the final year. And I went from, not really caring about my job, not liking it, not wanting to put forth effort, because all it's going to do is, sure, I fix your radar, but now I'm going to shoot people too. I went from doing that all day to providing a real service for the people of Georgia where I worked. Worked in Robins Air Force Base, and their honor guard was fantastic. They performed retirement ceremonies, funeral honors for active duty personnel and for those who retired. Did over 140 retirement ceremonies. I got to lead the retirement of a 3-star general. I don't mean to geek out, but how many people can say they led the retirement ceremony for a 3-star general? It was one of the coolest moments of my life. On the flip side, I also performed funeral honors for active duty. I did 5 different active duty funerals. One of the kids I buried, and I say kid because he was my age, a couple months younger than me at the time, I was what's called NFP. That's the non-commissioned officer in charge of the firing party. I call out the commands for the firing party and make sure they all fire at one. And if it sounds like popcorn, that's because I didn't train my guys right. If it sounds like one big boom, that's because we're doing it good. And the NFP is one of the only 2 people allowed to speak with the family. They hand the spent rounds to the family. 1 for duty, 1 for honor, 1 for country. And when a crying mother looks over to you and says, why did it have to be my son? Why is he gone? Why couldn't it have been you? I'm sorry, but there is no right answer to that question. That is a loaded one if you've ever heard it. And that, in my mind, was the first major crossroads of my life, I guess. Because do I do the professional thing and keep my military bearing and treat her just like a family member and not respond or tell her, duty, honor, country, salute, and let that be the end of it? Or do I break military bearing, say no to professionalism, and empathize with a fellow human being? Well, it's clear I chose the second. And I told her, and I put the rounds in her hand and said, this is not enough, and it's never going to be enough, and it's insulting, frankly, that a flag and some bullet casings are supposed to take the place of your son. Paraphrasing, because it was so long ago, I just said, there is nothing that can be done as true thank you. There's nothing that can be done that's good enough, and I'm sorry, I wish it could have been me. And she just hugged me and cried. And that really showed me the value of being human above everything else, because at the end of the day, we're all just human together. When I got out of the military, I was so happy to be accepted to community college. I didn't realize that you get in. They don't reject you from community college. I didn't know that. And so I used my GI Bill, went to the local community college, Deltona State College, got involved with the drama program there, thought I wanted to go for computer science and theater, did some computer science classes, did some theater classes, did some commercial shoots for that school, enjoyed myself. We went on an improv field trip to the Big Apple one year. And on the tour was the site of 9/11. And I was the only veteran in the class at the time. It's a powerful sight for anybody. And a lot of these people think, oh, 9/11, oh, let's move on. But for me, I realized my education benefits were because of 9/11. I realized the reason I'm in school was 9/11. The reason I went through the pain that I did is 9/11. The reason I'm unsure about I have doubts about myself, 9/11. And the tour guide saw this, and he knew I was a veteran. And he came over to me, and he asked me if I'm okay. And I just kind of cried into his shoulder a little bit. And this 22-year-old kid, this girl comes up to me, one of my classmates, and trivializes it completely. What are you whining about? Come on, grow up. And I thank God, because he just looked at her and said, no, you don't get to tell him. He saw something there, and he realized it's okay for this guy to feel the way he feels, and nobody gets to marginalize that. That really gave me a special affection for New York as a place, and the New York people, and Americans in general, really. It gave me faith in us as a country again. I applied to Columbia on a whim. They took me into their School of General Studies, and I was originally going to go and study computer science. I'm still in this computer science mindset, computer science and theater. And I sucked at computer science. When your teacher curves your 50 into a 70, you suck at computer science. And so I talked to my advisor, who was ultimately, utterly, painstakingly useless. And I look and I realize I have so much education benefits left, I can't afford to waste them. And political science is really the only one that won't extend my time at Columbia past my education benefits. Feeling terrible. I can't find work to save my life. I can't find work in project management. I can't find work in data analysis and all these things that apply with my degree. I'm feeling like everything that I've worked for was for nothing, and I locked up my firearms for that reason. And I write a letter to Jimmy Carter thinking, what the hell? There's no fucking way. Pardon my language, Mr. Carter. My birthday in 2019, February 22nd, a letter comes from the Carter Institute. My letter to Jimmy Carter asked, how do you get elected? You don't come from money. How do you do this? And his response, it was just the first page of my letter sent back to me with a note scrawled in the margin. It said, Justin, it would take a book, but I wish you the best of luck. Maybe it's silly to be excited about that, but Jimmy Carter wrote me back, and he didn't answer my question. But he saw there was something of value in the person that wrote him that letter, and that person needed to hear something. And even just a margin hand-scrawled note, it keeps me thinking positive. I was avoiding grad school. I didn't want to go to grad school because it's expensive. I'd have to pay for it myself. I didn't want to go into a huge amount of debt. I always promised myself I'd graduate school with no debt. But my girlfriend's in med school, so I started getting into the medical field. I started getting into all the classes I needed, which surprisingly were only about 1.5 years, 2 years of undergrad. I finished all of that. I'm in the app cycle for physician assistant school now because it's shorter than med school. I don't know too many people who can tell the story of, yeah, I'm a veteran trying to turn politician, also trying to balance a medical field. You know, it's really tough. It's really interesting. It's really crazy. It's a long, hard, insane road. I thought maybe the VA can help me out. And man, I've never heard of an organization backpedal to cover their own rear end so fast. No, 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 no. Here's our procedure. Here's our policy. Here's our list of red tape. Here's why we can't help you. It wasn't Jimmy Carter's, you can do this. I can't answer your question, but there's an answer out there. It was, here's red tape. And so I realized it's going to be all up to me. Again, there's no one out there to help me. And so I traveled with my girlfriend up to New York in her third year of medical school, and I serve as a medical scribe for an urgent care because they recognize my military experience. They recognize the first aid experience that I learned and trained under and gave training for in the military. And they said, yeah, you just need experience now. We'll give you that experience. And so now I'm working in a pandemic, giving COVID-19 tests and doing physical exams for patients while the doctors train me how to do them, treating me as if I'm a grad student already, showing me this is what it's going to be like. And they're giving me the valuable experience that I learned. And I found those people who are helping me overcome the obstacles.